You made a great choice. The chat is open, so fire away with all your questions for our guests. If you are listening to a recording, well, you missed out. Make sure you get here live. We're live every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Central. So mark your calendar, set an alarm, train your dog, whatever it takes to get here. But first, from a little message from our sponsor. Deadbolt Society is proudly sponsored by Bowman Vision Media, offering high voltage marketing for low voltage companies, which is just a fancy way of saying they make security business look amazing. Check them out at bowmanvisionmedia.com or swing by our Deadbolt sponsor space for more details. All right, enough of me talking. Let's get to the real reason why you're here. We have our guest, Josh Bowman. If that last name sounded familiar from what I just talked about, he is with Bowman Vision Media. Josh, why don't you give us a little background on your career?
Oh man, you got a minute? So yeah, name's Josh Bowman. Currently the founder, owner of Bowman Vision Media, which is marketing, but I have 34 years of experience in low voltage, audiovisual, security, IT, telephone, structured cabling, outside plant construction, wireless, just on and on and on. I even had a fire alarm license at one point in my life. So been around the block. If I don't look like I should have 34 years of experience, I started as a kid working in family businesses and moved into IT integrators around the Y2K. So I helped save everyone from Y2K. So no complaining.
Nice.
It was a real thing. We fixed it. And, moved on into distribution and spent the last 10 years in the security industry working for manufacturers until last fall when I founded Bowman Vision.
Right on. Why don't you talk about, I guess, for those who don't know, you are full-time Bowman Vision Media
Mm-hmm.
now, right?
Yeah.
You were kind of doing a little bit, you were doing it on the side.
Yeah.
As of, a couple weeks ago, you announced that you're going full-time. What is that? How's that been so far for you?
Oh, it's been great. So yeah, I went full time initially, when Cumulex was sold and was no longer a part of that. And, I wasn't really comfortable yet. So I took a project management role managing a $9 million structure cabling project for the federal government. And, just honestly found that there was a lot of opportunity for the business. And, I wasn't doing either side a fair shake, quite frankly. So definitely worked on plans, got some funding, and I think I'm now in week 4. This is the only thing I do in life, and
Wow.
it's been great. And in fact, we were just kind of joking before we started. I've still got to build the video studio, put everything together over in the other building. I don't even have anything put together because it's been busy. I had 3 new potential customer sales calls today, for example, and
Wow.
multiple calls with some existing. So it has been an overwhelming show of support, which is much appreciated.
Yeah, that's amazing. Already getting sales calls.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Uh, Curious what, tell the audience, why is it important to have a marketing agency that is dedicated to like the security or low voltage industry?
Well, it's important. I'll tell you, I started an integrator probably about 16 years ago out of an outside plant construction company. So it was completely clean sheet of paper, greenfield. They didn't do any of that type of business at all, which was an amazing opportunity that I'm still proud of, what we accomplished there. But in the beginning, I started off by kind of mapping out the products we would support, everything we would do. And then marketing was just like this thing that I was going to use, this really great marketing agency here in town. And, they would bring all that together. And so I kind of met with them and told them everything I was doing and went back a few weeks later to look at what they provided. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a little harder than I thought. And what
Mm.
ultimately happened was we had really good branding. And I think that really, the marketing made a huge difference for us in the way that we grew so fast and were so successful. But what ended up happening was I was already working crazy hours to get that off the ground. It was like I had a second job, because
Mm,
I had to really sort through anything they did. I really had to take the initiative to create everything I wanted and just have them make it better. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was kind of the beginning of my marketing career. And so what I realized was, just how much time that took. So I think it was like a
yeah.
year ago, I was putting together the social media for the next quarter for Cumulex. And it just kind of dawned on me. I'm like, if I knew about digital advertising, social media marketing, how to optimize the website and all these things that I'm doing, like I
Hmm.
could have done 10 times better than what I did, and and then I thought back to, yeah, but that was really hard. It was really hard because
Yeah.
it just took, because they're so good at all the other types of industries. And even for the manufacturer level, you know, even if they're fresh out of college, or they've done other types of marketing, they still have a head start on understanding how to market a product. But when you get to the integrator level, we're very unique, and I think we know it, but we don't always fully get how unique we are. For anybody that's tried to explain to their spouse what you do, it's
Yeah.
not easy.
Hmm.
So I think the importance, and the reason I tell the story is, that was the idea. Last February was when I first had the idea for Bowman Vision, because I said, I was hearing a lot from people that I interacted with already. They were saying, that would be a great business for you because the industries so well.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the marketing you're doing. And it seems like they really like it because it comes across as very authentic and very knowledgeable. And because you're coming at it not just from a marketing perspective, but you have both that plus the industry knowledge. And I think that is the benefit, is thinking about, because I know what it's like when you're trying to deal with running your operation, you're trying to deal with the projects, the customers, the contracts. And we also have a lot of technology and a lot of trends and things that we need to keep up with as is. So you really shouldn't have to make a second job as an integrator
Hmm.
trying to
Right.
tell your marketing company what you do and telling them no, the blue overalls, yellow hard hat, and screwing it into the wall with an Allen wrench. It just doesn't work. To the advantage is having an easy button. So okay, being able to understand what you do, you're not really having to explain all that. You can really just immediately get down to where you're at now, what the strategy should be, and start making it happen. And it just makes life a lot easier for the integrator. So I think just a long way of saying it should save you a lot of time and a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
And I think that's why
And
there's benefit.
I don't know what your pricing is, but I'm assuming also cheaper than hiring a full-time person.
It's a spectrum, when you
Yeah.
look at marketing pricing. So on its face, my pricing sits kind of at the high end of average. And that would also depend on, are you in LA, Chicago, New York?
Hmm.
Are you, I'm in central Ohio. So yeah, I mean, I think most people look at the pricing, they think it's about what they would expect. So
Yeah. Now that you're in it full time, what are some things that you kind of didn't think about when you first started? Some challenges that you have come across.
well, I think in general, as somebody that's been an employee since he was like
Mm.
12 years old, you know, uh, just general entrepreneurial, like it's exciting, but you kind of go through cycles each day. You're very excited. This is great. This is so cool. I work for myself. I get to make the choices. I get to make the decisions. Isn't that grand? And then you take another step and you go, oh no, I'm all
Yeah.
alone now. Right. I mean, so I think honestly, the biggest surprise is just how quickly I'm getting over that. I was afraid,
Yeah.
how long would it take me to get over the newness, the new fears. I think the fact that I've been blessed with a lot of interest and customers coming on board so fast, I think has made it easier. And I think the biggest surprise is, I'm very organized and strategic and I like to plan. So I'd actually planned out throughout this year as I grew where my processes would break. Like I have on my business plan for the year that somewhere between June and August, my onboarding processes, for example, would be broken and I would have to redo
Mm.
it. And I think what surprises me is I'm moving fast enough that that's happening already. You know,
Yeah. I missed that last part. I got a phone call
no, it's okay.
right as you finished your sentence. But so part of your Bowman Vision Media
Hmm.
venture is also kind of tagged along the 49 Volts podcast, right?
Hmm.
Or is that separate?
It's interesting because I really want the podcast, even though it does benefit the business. Um, well, you'll remember you were my first guest
How was your
last year.
first guess? Yeah.
I really, when Aaron Newman and I started Cumulex Radio a couple years ago, we did it
Hmm.
for the same reason that Bear was talking about. And I think so many that are doing it now had talked about, where there just wasn't enough content that we could just press play and listen on a long drive and
Yeah.
work through them. And it started off as something fun, it ended as something fun, and I really just enjoy it. So I think strategically, I thought, okay, and you should think about it from a marketing perspective out there. I mean, any content you create that's positive in nature is going to be beneficial. So that's a nice byproduct. In a way, I see it as separate because it really isn't intended to be a commercial for the business. It's really,
Mm,
I'm inviting people that I think are interesting. I was so interested and excited about, your vision for Deadbolt when we
yeah.
first met, and I thought it was really cool that we were both starting something new and to launch that together. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely a part of it. I mean, I've got a page for that on the website. I mean, it's definitely a part of Bowman Vision, but
Hmm.
I don't see it as a business venture. Like today, I talked to Brandon Adams,
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll be able to finish editing and get that out tomorrow. But I just like talking to Brandon. I just enjoy talking to him, and
Hmm.
to me, that's what 49 volts is all about.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a great way to um, not only talk to interesting people like how I'm doing with you, but you learn from these conversations too.
Oh yeah.
Uh, you know, you get front row access to these industry leaders that have been through it, have done it, and this is I love doing this. What are some interesting people that you've talked to so far? Are you and you have anybody that you want to kind of tease that's coming up?
I try not to tease because I've got a really
Hmm.
big headliner that we keep having to reschedule. So I probably would have looked like a liar by now. We've been working on that for a couple months, but um, honestly, every single person I invite is interesting. Um, and it's a little bit, like you talk about the experience of recording together. Um, I don't know if you remember back in school, you'd have that field trip day, and then
Hmm.
somehow there's somebody you sat next to and you ended up walking around with them at the museum, and it's not somebody you
Yep.
normally talk to, and then you're a little bit friends after that. You feel
Yep.
like you kind of know each other. That these podcasts seem to have that similar feeling to me. A lot of relationships kind of grow from that. You get to know people that maybe you didn't really know that well before. um, so I mean, I think each person I've talked to has been very interesting. I mean, I started with you. I think
Hmm.
Vinny was the second one. um, it's also an opportunity to talk to. I had Urona Boster on the podcast a few weeks ago, and she's an author. She's a TEDx speaker. She's a psychologist. I mean, and I initially brought her on to talk about, hey, I think more people should take advantage of the opportunity to speak at shows. And most people have a fear of standing in front of a large crowd
Yeah.
and performing the public speaking. So that was kind of the initial reason. But then we got into, the human side of AI, the psychology of sales, why authenticity matters to
Hmm.
people, and trying to, understand that in more detail. So I think she is obviously a little bit out of scale versus everybody else because she's outside of the industry, but that was an interesting conversation on record, and the before and after discussions. I mean, just getting to just have an open chat with a psychologist is something that my mom probably would have recommended. So
Perfect. Charles on the LinkedIn chat wants to ask if you're going to be at ISC West this year.
I'm trying. It is I'm yes and no throughout the day. So I'm hoping for yes. Come see me. I'll let you know.
Well, I hope you're there. We get to hang out. Not very often we get to meet in person. It's mostly
Yeah.
just over video chat. But um, you had mentioned, we kind of connected on your 49 volts podcast early
Hmm.
on, and then you were really interested in Deadbolt Society and all that I launched last year. Um, for the audience, I don't know if everybody knows, but Bowman Vision Media is our sponsor. I say it at every episode, but
That was a good ad
um,
read at the top of the show, man. I
yeah,
appreciated
if
it
you
more than
if you
every other
missed it,
guest. I promise you.
yeah, right. But Josh Bowman is the face behind it, and why don't you kind of tell the audience a little bit of why you believe in Deadbolt and why you thought it was a good thing to invest in?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, talk about my journey just in general with this marketing, and this really ties into it because a long time ago I had Facebook when it was still just for college kids, and then I had Twitter when Jack Dorsey actually had tweets where Jack Dorsey would respond to me because there was like hardly anybody on Twitter. I had a MySpace account. I was kind of an early investor in being involved with social media, and in 2021, just with the way things were in the world, I just kind of I killed all my social media accounts except LinkedIn. And then
Mm,
it was kind of like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Not much after that, I started really becoming more versed in marketing. It was a bigger part of my role at Cumulax, and then it clicked. I'm like, man, this is really valuable. I was using it the wrong way, and I
yeah.
that sense of community, it's there, if that's what you're there for. And then hearing you talk about when you reached out, that very thing where you're trying to create a community where it's not just online, and you can't even get lost in the wrong channels and end up down a rabbit hole of negativity and politics and all of
Hmm.
that. It's all about the industry and all about people that are, we're all in this niche offering of security where people outside the industry probably don't even really understand what we all experience. And I just thought that was a really incredible idea and really wanted to be a part of it. And, it's not the easiest thing for a new business to do, but
Right.
I, I felt like that mission is valuable, both from a, practice what I preach, marketing and branding and doing that through social channels and how valuable that is. Well,
Hmm.
how do we not make the investment in Deadbolt, especially when Deadbolt is catering exactly to us in the industry? I mean,
Yeah.
it makes too much sense. I think it's too valuable, and I really wanted to make sure that it was free. I wanted to make sure that people could join the community, and we could watch it grow and help it grow. And um, I think that's worked. I think we've seen a lot of growth since
Yeah.
that happened, and I think that'll continue. And heck, even my dad joined today. I think my
I
dad
was
hopped
gonna
in
say
there.
even
So
your dad joined. Yeah.
yeah, so
No,
he
it's
actually has noticed. So
I'm very, very grateful for you investing in Deadbolt. You know, for the audience, a lot of the vision that we have is first community building that, but we are also looking into building out a training section and a product review section, and ultimately a uh, mentorship program to help bring these young technicians in and tell them, hey, there's more to this security career, or if they want to stay in the technician side, there's no right or wrong answer, but there is room for growth, and there's people that are willing to pour into the younger kids and the younger generation, and then also kind of pouring into you know trying to phrase it the right way, but attracting the next generation into the
for
security
sure,
field, because
yeah,
a lot of the old guys are leaving, and I feel like there's not enough new talent coming in. So we definitely need to work on our advertising as a security industry. And
Agree.
what are your thoughts on how we can kind of help with that?
I mean, from the standpoint of Deadbolt, I mean, I think it's just a matter of staying the course. I think we need to see the continued growth of the community. I think as the community grows, we're going to have a lot more sustainable conversations that take place.
Mhm.
Right now, we're all pretty good at saying hi, how you doing, and then
Right.
there's just not enough of an echo, to cascade through. But every day we're getting new members, so I think the first thing is to make us, a larger and stronger community of people,
Yeah.
um, and that's yes, there's a group of us that are shepherding that, but really the intention is this is for the security community. So
Hmm.
the way that helps is if we get more participation from those that are in here now, help us share the word, use the go up and do a copy link and send out an invite to people,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
help us draw attention to it, help the community grow. I mean, that community aspect of it, I think, would always be something that is free. That is something that's there for everybody to come in, and we can get away from the other noise and bluster on the other sites. Even though I've come to love social media in general when used properly, I mean, this is a place where we can come home and talk amongst ourselves, and
Yeah.
it's just us here. And I think just spreading the word and getting people to join is the biggest thing that we can do for Deadbolt.
Yeah. All right. Enough talking about ourselves.
I mean, it's a
I
podcast, we got to
Yeah.
talk
Why
about
not?
something.
Um, I did want to bring up. You had posted a couple days ago about referencing a conversation that you had with somebody else. That insurance companies offer a discount if you have an alarm.
Mm-hmm.
However, the question was, should that discount be taken away if it's found out that that person is not arming or using it properly? Uh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. That was Brandon. Um, I don't know. I was really surprised because if I go back and look at the poll, it's been a pretty tight race because I ended up
Yeah.
putting that out there as a poll, and it's pretty evenly split. Nobody took the bait on my joke that said, "Hey, I can get a discount." I thought I'd get at least one smarty pants to vote on that one, but he was talking about that in one of his videos that he puts out, and I thought about it, and my initial instinct was, well, don't you mainly get the discount just because you have a sign up? They could see that you have an alarm system, so there's like a deterrence effect.
Yeah.
Because certainly you could still break in even though the alarm is there. I'd never really processed or thought about the fact, like, should you not be covered if you're not using it? What are the conditions? And I think, to me, I think that's the sticky part. I could see, maybe, I think Brandon's point is like that particular customer never used it, so it seems like we have a couple extremes where we could say it's always being used, so you're covered. It's never being used, are you not covered? But then, like, what's the dividing line? Like, if I live on a larger property and I go out and take a walk around my yard and somebody does, break in at that time, you
Right.
know, should I not be covered? So I guess, from my feeling, my standpoint is like it's kind of sticky from a legal perspective because you would have to set some very defined parameters on what it means to not use it enough.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating to me that there's really almost an even number of people that seem to be responding and saying that you should or should not be covered based on that. I mean, there were definitely a lot of people that had the same assumption I did, but Brandon was not alone in his
Mhm.
opinion at all. So that was interesting to me. And then I
I do
wondered,
think
go ahead.
I was going to say I personally do think that you know uh, when you file an insurance claim, they usually do an audit. Even when we had wind damage the other day, a couple weeks ago, and they come out and they look at your roof or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when you file an insurance claim, they can easily look at your system log and say, well, you got broken into because you haven't armed it in a month. Um, I think I don't know if they're even allowed to have that kind of access. Um,
You'd have to
I
give it to
don't.
them somehow
Yeah, I
because I
guess.
don't. You're going to provide a certificate, some proof of monitoring, but that doesn't necessarily give them
Yeah.
these skills or the admin password, to get into that panel. So
Right.
it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I would wonder from the insurance perspective if they think it's, again, enough of a deterrent that it's worth a discount to encourage you to do it. But that doesn't mean that they're going to. I mean, another question I would ask is like, so we all should wear our seatbelts. But if
Right.
I don't wear my seatbelt and I'm in a crash, like what happens? Am I denied
You
coverage?
die.
You may die, or worse, you may be
Yeah.
alive and not nearly as well as you used to be. But
Right.
I mean,
You wish
how's
you
that
were.
handled, right?
Yeah. I think that's another same thing where, they have a claims adjuster come out and say, well, you can't file, for your personal liability because you weren't wearing a seatbelt. I think they can, deny you for that. So as far as the insurance goes for, being broken into and getting a discount for the alarm, it's hard to tell because they would have to have access to that system. How would they know if you're not using it all the time? And I know for me, it'd be that one time I don't arm it that I get broken into, and
Right.
they're like, "Well, you didn't arm the system. It's not our fault."
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's even if you're really diligent about it, what if, your kid, I have, we have a 20-year-old, we have a 13-year-old, we have kids that come and go. I mean, what happens when they just
Hmm.
don't think to? Did they just
Right,
negate your whole policy and
right,
nothing's covered? I think my concern when I was thinking about all that stuff too was like there's definitely I think some passion because it's what we do. We're like, hey, we put this in for you. How are you not using it? It's
yeah,
it's valuable when you use it. But then also, like, what would be the effect on the integrator? Because if they could lose their coverage, we're getting to be pretty serious about it. So, like, what is your responsibility to respond when there's an issue with it?
hmm,
I mean, I think that would put a lot of heat on the integrator in terms of their maintenance and response time,
yeah.
when there's a problem. So I think that's a hammer that could swing both ways.
It's true.
But it
Yeah,
was a fascinating, thought provoking question that I wasn't expecting the other day. And it
yeah,
just happened.
yeah. It definitely made me think about it for sure. You know, um,
That's why I
kind
like
of.
Brandon, because somehow, some way, he's going to say something and we're going to converse about it. And I'm going to think about something in a new way that I've never thought about it before.
Yeah, he
Eh,
definitely makes you think
Yeah.
of some of the stuff. Kind of, you know, going off topic of security a little bit, but uh, you are kind of following, being in the marketing world. You're kind of
Hmm.
following what's going on with TikTok and all
Yeah.
that. Uh, Give the audience, kind of an update of what's going on with that.
So there was a lot of rumor a couple weeks ago that Oracle, who I think was the initial plan back in 2018 or 2019 when they were going to be banned, kind of emerged as rumored to be the top candidate to take over that platform if a deal was reached. The deadline is April 4.
I know
Um,
they already kind of
so
store
there's
their that information here locally, right?
yes, there's already a relationship, a capability. Oracle is in good standing with the federal government as well. So it seems like JD Vance, the vice president, was assigned the task of getting this detail sewn up. And so I guess he was interviewed, I think it was this morning or yesterday. Said he was in pretty high confidence that they have a solution, but did not name anyone specifically. So, I mean, I think it's relevant to security. I mean, think about the guy we were just talking about, When I talked to Brandon today, he was like, I don't want to give too much credit to TikTok and say that it's the only reason I'm around. But, we're in this game of in marketing. And when we're trying to brand ourselves and our company, that part of the value of that is being able to attain reach. And even though I spend the majority of my time social media wise on Deadbolt and LinkedIn, there's no question that TikTok and that algorithm that we hear so much negative about is also positive in many ways, because it really rewards you for producing content. And that content, we always kind of start on this basis that, well, it's social media content, it must be bad. Well, not necessarily. There's a lot of good content on there and a lot of educational and industry related content. So, we talk about, Bear will talk about Instagram, for example, and the value that has for, technicians in the field, and how often, they contribute to and watch the reels. I think there's a lot of that on TikTok as well. So I think it's a net positive for the security industry. Me personally, I think an American company owning that makes me feel a little bit better about the cybersecurity aspect of it. 100%, which I do agree. Yeah. There's been some issues there and concerns there. So I think that would be nice. And I just hope they don't ruin it. We had Elon Musk bought Twitter. I was happy that he bought Twitter. I was enthusiastic about that. But I don't really think Twitter holds a lot of value right now. I mean, I don't see a lot of good content there. And certainly, I mean, it used to be you could really follow like cybersecurity and a lot of technical stuff on Twitter, a lot of good news and information, and it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. So I'm hoping that TikTok is made better with this solution and it continues to be valuable, but not to give away the whole interview. I mean, like Brandon made a good comment today. He says, there'll always be the next one,
Yeah.
So if anything goes wrong with it, I mean, each social media site has a decline at some point anyways, because it's not as new or hip.
Look at MySpace.
Yeah, it went south quick, didn't it?
It did. us millennials, though, we wish we had it again. Able to, that's when I first learned coding, was with MySpace.
So first of all, I didn't realize you were old enough to have even heard of MySpace. So that's comforting.
Hey.
That's a compliment coming from a 46-year-old. You can call me as young as you want. I mean, that was really just to tell you how our ideas about things have changed. I mean, I remember thinking when MySpace, because there was this girl that her name was Kelly, and she wanted me to be on MySpace. And I just kept dragging. I'm like, she's like, all your friends are on there. Everybody's there. It's so much fun. And I'm like, whatever. And finally I just said, well, how much does it cost? And she just looked at me and she's like, well, it's free. I'm like, oh, well, you should have just said so. So I mean, now, obviously, like we're just talking about Deadbolt. I mean, it's just kind of an expectation that when you join a social community like that, I mean, there's no upfront charge to the user. So back when MySpace was around, I mean, we don't talk about it anymore, but I mean, I think they really changed, the way that people interacted and what their expectations were.
Yeah. All right. Changing gears back to security. Now that we talked about TikTok and social media, what do you think the next big thing is in security, in your opinion, kind of with your vision of what, it's going to look like?
I think the next big thing is kind of happening. So, I mean, are we talking about the next big thing after? Because it was cloud was the big thing. And then to me, AI, I mean, we're in the middle of that new world.
I still think cloud is still catching up.
Yeah, it is, but we can't call that the big thing anymore.
Yeah.
In my view. I mean, even working for cloud providers here in the security space, I mean, 2 years ago, we were saying, look, cloud's not a buzzword anymore. I think we're more concerned about functionality and how cloud may be a part of that. It's almost like, how does your product use cloud? I mean, we're at the point now, there's legacy NVR-based solutions that may have a cloud component, like a cloud backup or, some type of connectivity over the cloud.
That's
Even
true. I guess now it's almost assumed that things have cloud.
yeah. So I mean, I think that's why now people like me invented terms like cloud native, because if you were,
Mhm.
a cloud provider, you have to keep differentiating yourself, from the traditional approach and some of the updates they've made. So yeah, I don't, we're nowhere near 100% adoption, and I don't think we ever will. I don't think there's any reason everything has to be cloud, but I think it's coming along. I don't think it's a buzzword, and I think AI is, but I think that we're in the middle of it, and I think our industry is embracing AI extremely well. I think we're
Mm.
absolutely keeping pace, and you look at I think we're probably going to see some really cool things at ISC. I mean, a lot of big developments and new features are kind of held back for the show, and
Yeah.
I have so many NDAs I've signed, so many things I can't say, but I know that there are many, many, many products out there that were working very, very hard on an NLP LLM type approach last year. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. And so to me, that's not the next thing. I think that's the thing that we're experiencing now.
Hmm.
My opinion, the next thing is going to be like AGI paired with robots, like to the point where we really do truly have like the science fiction movie robots that
What
can
is
kind of go
what's
do their own
AGI?
thing. It's the autonomous general intelligence. It's the concept of this is now intelligence that can go do its own thing, build itself, repair itself, make its own choices.
Mm.
I mean that AGI is expected to happen. I think when I was even
So
talking to
Skynet.
Don, yeah, I mean in a way that certainly puts a negative spin on it for sure. But even Don, when I was talking to Don Marone, I mean, he confirmed that I mean that's expected to be in the market before the end of the current president's term. Not because of him, just timing wise. In the next 4 years,
Right.
we're
The next.
expecting to see that, and I think that that's going to be incredible. And I think there's so many ways in life that will affect people in a positive way. But I think in the security industry, I think we will then see like a final evolution of how the response to events can be so immediate and
Yeah.
so automated and ultimately help people so much faster.
Yeah. I just posted last week. I work with a data center, uh, Nova Data Centers. They use the Boston Dynamic dog.
Hmm.
It's called Spot, and they use that to do patrols. It's got a
Hmm.
lidar and a camera on it, and it can respond to events. And so when
Hmm.
motion's picked up by the cameras, it'll go check it out. I know they're updating it to where it's going to also allow visitors to follow the dog. And I think at ISC last year, it was
Hmm.
GSX or ISC. I believe it was HID or a mix of Asa Abloy and HID, where Spot was able to go up to the door and the door
Mm.
opens. Obviously, you need auto door operators for those, but it can basically do a guided tour of the facility by itself, which I think is pretty cool.
It is, and
I know
that's
there's
very
there's
advanced.
limitations with drones and all that,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a cool factor.
So I mean, you ask what AGI is. I mean, AGI is going to be the idea that so then they have the people, the two-legged, very similar to human shaped robots as
Hmm.
well, right? And I don't know if anybody here follows Lex Friedman, but Lex Friedman is a very interesting data scientist. He's worked on programs with Boston Dynamics. I mean, they've been working on this type of AGI technology for a very long time. And of course, I mean,
Hmm.
that's going to be the ultimate solution for the product that they're building. But I think it's going to be the idea that you no longer have to worry about, well, can it just go out there and do the tour? Can it react to certain events a certain way? But we're talking about the fact that these things are thinking for themselves. You
Yeah,
know, there's training and then continuous learning, and they become very autonomous. They're almost alive in a sense. So, we're going to get to a place where it's not just the tour. They could probably follow you home and make you your breakfast and help you in so many ways.
Yeah. I will be the first one to sign up for a Tesla robot. Probably, I'm not scared of, we've had all these, programmed videos in our minds of robots are bad and they're going to take over the
Right.
world. But I think that's definitely going to be something that's going to help society. It's
Yeah.
just like, cars did,
Hmm.
people were scared of cars. They're like, no way, I'm not going to get in one of those. And now everybody has one. And, every new big technology that comes out, there's always people that are anti or against it or scared of it. Um, but
I think
just
that's
can't live
healthy.
your
I
life.
think it's healthy to
Can't live
have
your life
pushback.
scared though.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's good. I'm a middle of the road person on so many types of issues. I mean, I think it's good that you have that discussion, that argument against. I think that makes the pro side have to be sharper and more educated and really more on top of it. But ultimately, it's not a political thing to say. I mean, you look at the boomer
Hmm.
generation, we had like 4.2 kids per family. My generation, I'm at the tail end of Gen X, almost millennial. I think it was like 3.6. We get
Yeah.
into the millennial now, it's in the twos, and now we're in the ones. I mean, we are not far away from what Peter Zion and many people that study demographics at an elite level have talked about. I mean, population collapse. So there's going to be a period of time where one rubs up on the other, where, okay, maybe it'll feel
Yeah.
like they're taking jobs away, for example. But if I live long enough, I'm going to see a time in our current demographics and population decline that I may not, there may not be anybody to put out a fire at my
Mm.
house. There may not be enough people to have enough
Right.
doctors. We may not be able to staff police departments, and on and on and on. It's going to impact every part of society. So I actually think that this type of technology and these robots, I think there's more potential for good, that they could really allow us to continue to grow and advance as a
Hmm.
society. Because once you can't get all the services you need, I mean, things really start to crumble, right? So
Right.
this could be a really great thing.
Yeah, I know there's already drones that uh, first responders are using
Hmm.
to, with a 911 call, they send out a drone with a, defibrillator or whatever emergency package it
Hmm.
has to the crash site, to where anybody who is around can start doing emergency response before they get there, which I think
Yeah,
is amazing. And
it
using
is.
technology kind of like in that way, um, to, you know make the world a better place, definitely is. I'm all for that.
I mean, we are in the year of our Lord 2025. I grew up thinking in the year 2000 we would have flying cars.
Right.
I mean, I don't think it's out of line to want a world where, if I'm 80 years old, if I make it that long and I'm dropped to my knee with a heart attack on a sidewalk in the middle of town, like, let the robots come and help me. You know what I mean? Or a
Right.
car accident or a fire. I mean, think of what you could do with a fire department where you have robots that can go into the fire, and they're not just relying on like a base level program. They can go in there, think and react
Right.
and deal with things. And
Scan for any life. Yeah.
absolutely. Are people going to do bad things with them? Yes. But I don't think anybody's destroyed more civilizations or people than people. So I
Yeah.
think they'd have a lot of catching up to do. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
No comments on any of this, huh?
I
I
know,
usually
it's
ruffle
quiet.
feathers with my robot visions. It's not usually
If anybody
popular.
out there has questions for Josh, now's the time to get them in. We're nearing the end of our talk, but uh, what do you? Why don't you give us a little vision into who Josh is on a personal level? What kind of things do you
Oh,
like to do as hobbies? Or I know, one of them's another YouTube channel that you run, but
hmm,
what kind of things do you like to do?
well, cars. So if I move out of the way, we got like. they're not all in here. I didn't have room in my little trunk, but um, yeah, I really enjoy cars. My son and I like to go to car shows, go meet people with interesting cars. We got a little busy last year, so we'll start making more. But we did start a YouTube channel called Joshing Around with Cars, and my son's very into photography, so that's something that we've started to enjoy together. Um, I do a lot of continuous learning, whether it's marketing, AI, you name it. So I spent a lot of time on a platform called Coursera,
Mm,
where universities put out programs. I know it doesn't sound fun, but it is. I like to learn, and it's kind of like to me the modern way of reading books. To learn more
yeah,
about subjects. I have a family. I'm married to my high school girlfriend, so my prom date is still putting up with me.
nice.
So I don't know if that's virtuous or
she
she's just,
she must be a saint.
yeah, putting up with a lot. So we have 3 kids. We have a sophomore, getting towards the end of his sophomore year at University of Cincinnati. He's a marketing major. A 13-year-old son I just
Wow.
mentioned, Ramsey, and he's a great athlete. He's playing lacrosse right now. It's lacrosse season. I mean, I think he could be a D1 college player in that sport, but he's
Wow.
also really good at football. My daughter is super artistic. I can't believe the paintings that my wife and daughter are putting together. Every Sunday they sit and paint, and I could see, the boys are very interested in the marketing business. I could see my daughter, if she doesn't become a professional dog groomer as she dreams, I could see her being involved. Um, Very into sports, aside from cars. I mean, I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. Not been an awesome thing lately to be a Penguins fan, but I like ice hockey. I'm a Braves fan. Really like baseball. I'm a Colts fan, so I hate football. Um,
Mm,
Here in
yeah.
the Central Ohio, big Buckeyes fan. So I mean, we live in a nature preserve, so we like to take a lot of walks, take a lot of pictures of nature. Um, so cars, sports, family. I mean, what else could there be?
Right.
And it all sounds great, except I started my own business, so really all I do is work right now.
Yeah. That's your life right now, right?
Yeah, for
Well, it
sure.
sounds like your oldest son's gonna be working with you for you. You're gonna work for him
Yeah,
if he's
maybe all the
getting his
above.
marketing degree. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. He's changed majors more than once, so we'll see if he sticks with it or not. I
Sticks
offered
with
him
it.
an internship. He wasn't impressed. He wanted to go to a big company. So
Somebody that'll pay him to be an intern.
I'll pay him.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, that's all I got for questions.
I must be
Do you have
boring.
anything? Any
I
last
mean,
words?
you're usually going to like 6 o'clock.
I
I
know
think
these
people
are
hear from me too much, right? Too much has already been revealed.
these are. It has been pretty quiet, but hopefully we have a bigger audience on Friday because you're going to be joining me again on Friday for the
Absolutely.
Deadbolt Roundtable. And then next Tuesday, we have another live stream with Terry Conlon. He's going to be diving deep into Septed, and he's really big in the
Nice.
Septed world. So very excited for that interview. And then the following week is ISC West, and
Hmm.
still not sure what we are going to do for that. Probably try to see about going live at the event and you know do some live interviews that way. But you'll have to be on Deadbolt to do that. So make sure you sign up. Again, because of Bowman Vision Media, it is free to join. Get on there, start posting and interacting, building this community for security professionals to learn and grow. So thank you for joining. And for those of you
Yeah.
listening to the podcast, thanks for listening. And we'll see you next week. All right. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know why it was so